Afternoon, everybody. I just banked my vote for Trump here in the state of Virginia, as well as hung Cal for U.S. Senate. Listen, y'all, it's not hard to vote. We do so many things that are so much less important, like sit around and watch TV, watch sports, or just sit on our phone scrolling social media looking at memes, okay? This does not take long. Even registering to vote, which takes a little longer than voting itself, it does not take long. We owe it to our country, to our fellow citizens, to go vote for Donald Trump. Our country is at stake. Our gun rights are at stake. Our freedom of religion and freedom of speech is at stake. Let's get it done, y'all.
I agree with him. And that's why I played that video to start this one off. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. If you got to do it early, do it early. All right? Let's get it done. The game has started. All right? And we can most definitely win it. But we have to show up and do our part. You got to show up. And I'll talk more about, you know, the Electoral College odds and what I think is actually going to happen at the end of this video. But I got some major news. And I say major because the Democrat mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, has endorsed Donald Trump. And I know some of you are probably like, Rich, well, why is that significant? Well, one, he's a Democrat. As you can see right there on your screen. Democrat. And two, it's because this guy is the mayor of a city in Michigan. Another plus, Michigan, right? Which Rasmussen has Trump, or has Harris +1 in Michigan in their last poll, which I believe that last poll was back in August, mid-August. So it's been a little while. But Rasmussen's last poll had Trump behind by 1 point, okay? This is in Michigan, though. So he is the mayor of the only city in America, I believe, that is predominantly Muslim. And this is in Michigan. So I think this is major, major news. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, let me be clear so our expectations are realistic. President Trump and I may not agree on everything, but I know he is a man of principles. Hamtramck is the only Muslim majority town in the U.S. When officials with the town's human relations flew pride flags, the city council fired them and banned pride flags on public property. Yeah. And this happened, I believe that happened last year where there was, you know, the Muslims like weren't for any of that. So Muslims have a, you know, conservative way of living, right? And I feel like a lot of Muslims would agree more with Trump. It's just like black people, right? Just this whole perception of we got to vote Democrat. I think that's what's kind of gotten in the way a little bit. I could be wrong. If we have any Muslims watching, feel free to let us all know. But yeah, a Democrat who is the mayor of a majority Muslim city has endorsed Donald Trump. And I believe this town is a town of 30,000 people, I think. I'm trying to see here. I saw it somewhere. I believe it's about 30,000 people. Not a big city, okay? But in order to win Michigan, it won't take a massive city. But here, I'll play this clip as well so you guys can hear the words straight from his mouth. Check it out.
People want to know what brought you to your decision to endorse former President Donald Trump. It's having a huge impact right now. Why?
Well, I have been in contact with his campaign team for the past 2 months, and they were very determined that they communicate with me. They visited me to my office. I met with them multiple times. There were some suggestions that they want to send high figures from his administration to here.
Kind of courting you because of the number of votes here.
Yes.
If I don't know the numbers I remember right, but if 2016, if President Trump won by 16,000 votes. If he lost by 10,000 votes the next time around, if there are 27,000 votes here, your endorsement could have made a huge impact.
It could, and like I said, it will have an impact elsewhere, even outside of my city, and even outside
the rest of Metro Detroit.
Correct.
So people on uncommitted movement, this may nudge them. It could, if they agree with you, it could nudge them to be no longer be uncommitted, but commit then towards President Trump. Potentially.
Yeah, I think the people now are very happy to find alternative because they were afraid. They inherited this policy that we have a disconnect with the Republicans, and it's not a party of minorities. And now they said they are noticing that there should be connections and communication with both parties. But before I didn't finish the idea that I was telling the campaign that if you want our support, we need to start building trust. And I requested to meet the former President Donald Trump. And
it wasn't just a handshake. You spoke for 20 minutes or so.
We did. And
as soon as you believe he was listening, especially when we talk about Gaza and Yemen.
Yes, he was listening. He was taking my opinion into consideration, and it was a very productive meeting, I call it.
Thank you, Mayor.
So yeah, you heard it there. Trump is doing the work to win over all Americans, even though the narrative is that Trump doesn't care about any Americans if they aren't white, right? The only Americans Trump cares about, according to mainstream media, are only white Americans. But you saw there, he met with the mayor of a very small town in Michigan of 27,000 people, less than 30,000 people, a majority Muslim town, right? And sat down with him and had a productive conversation, according to the mayor. So once again, this is Trump 2.0. This is what Trump should be doing. But also, let's move on over to another Democrat area, the city of Chirac, aka or formerly known as Chicago. They've got some issues on their hands, and it's all due to the illegals. Now, do I think Illinois is going to go red? No. Do I think Chicago is going to vote majority red? No. But I do think this is a step in the right direction and should be acknowledged, because maybe by 2028, maybe it will go red, right? After everybody sees this next 4 years of Trump and how the mainstream media lied and said he was going to do this and do that and destroy this and destroy that, and none of it actually happened. It was just peace and prosperity, right? Maybe it will. Check it out.
America has allowed gangs to enter our country.
The migrants that are coming, they're taking over every block right now.
The city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke, it's going to go up in flame.
Gangs in Chicago are angry over the influx of migrants and criminals in their city. They say money that should be going to the African-American community on the South Side is instead going to what they call non-citizens, and warn that turf wars between Chicago's gangs and groups like Venezuela's Tren de Aragua could see Chicago, quote, go up in flames. Photographer Matt McDermott and I traveled to Chicago's South Side to see what was happening for ourselves after we heard about a police report last month that the Tren de Aragua gang had taken over an office building there. We spoke to a number of young, hardcore gang members, as well as gang elders who have retired from the life, and just regular citizens who are very much part of the community. And they're all furious at the estimated $500 million that's reportedly been funneled toward new migrants in Chicago since 2022. And they aren't happy either about what they say are Venezuelan criminal gangs that are leaving the shelters and spilling out into the South Side into abandoned buildings. I spoke to Tyrone Muhammad of Ex-Cons for Trump, who runs a street patrol and violence prevention program. He's gone straight since his days as an enforcer for the Gangster Disciples. And he said the situation is very tense on the South Side as turf battles between the local gangs and Venezuelan migrants heat up.
It is impossible to release gang members and criminals into our country through the borders and broken walls, and then infiltrate them in our community that's already impoverished, that's already broken, that's already disinvested. And when the black gangs, the leadership in the black gangs in Chicago get fed up with the illegalities and the criminal activity of these migrants or non-citizens, the city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke, it's going to go up in flame, and there's going to be nothing that the National Guard or our government can do about it when the bloodshed hit the streets. Blacks against migrants.
Zach Massey did time in state prison with Tyrone Muhammad, although he's only 27. He's a leader on the streets and said he's disgusted by the money going to Venezuelan migrants at the expense, he says, of the African-American community.
I finally actually talked to one on the translator app, and he told me all the things that he got going on, how they help him get a car, apartment, clothes, link. So it's just like, I just be looking at it like, they ain't got no Social Security, no, where they come from. He probably not even here legally.
They get right here, they get quick housing, quick funding, food, and getting cars with no license. They can't even read English and stuff like that. So they get all these perks when they get here, and we still here starving. So what we gonna do about it? Are y'all gonna listen to our cries?
Corey Rogers was a Blackstone gang member for years. He drove us around the South Side and showed us areas where he said Trendo Iwagwa and other criminal gangs are setting up shop and what he called showing the flag, which means brandishing their weapons in front of like a housing project.
The migrants that are coming, they're taking over every block right now in this area. Right now, you don't see them because they come out at night. They said they took this courtway over probably by last week. They said it was 100 Venezuelans standing out in the front right here.
Terry, is it an abandoned building? How do they just take it over?
They just, when you take over something, you just stand outside, and that's called showing the flag.
What kind of guns
Semi-automatics, anything you name, you're going to see it on the street. These boys got so many big guns that if they're 150 pounds, the gun is bigger than them. I swear.
But they know how to handle it, right? They know what. Tell me about the fact that they're criminals, right? This is a criminal element. These aren't just a bunch of Venezuelans that walked over the border and used to be gardeners back home, right?
Right. They come from the gangland. They come from rougher gangs than us.
One gang member who only gave his name as David on a particularly dangerous drug dealing corner on the South Side did not hold back when he talked about the influx of criminal gangs from other countries into Chicago.
The real issue is that America has allowed gangs to enter our country. Gangs that they would consider ex-terrorist groups that are formed here. We are terrorist groups if we're in a gang. They let terrorists in our country.
The Reverend Corey Brooks also said to me he's disgusted with Democratic policies and said that Black Lives Matter, for example, has never reached out to help him or anyone else trying to improve conditions on the South Side.
Chicago is a blue city. Illinois is a blue state. There's no doubt about it that the majority of our neighborhood, they're going to continue to vote Democrat until they wake up. The good news is that there are a lot of people who are responding and waking up and saying, listen, we're not going to take this. We're not going to stand for this. We're going to vote differently. And they're now accepting some of the values that I hold dear and some of the values that the conservative Republican Party holds so dear. And so for a lot of people, it's not about the person, it's about the policies that we're fed up with. And as a result, I think this is going to be the largest amount of people who have voted for a Republican president in Chicago that we've seen.
I agree. Now, will it ultimately make a difference in Illinois? Probably not. But I do think it's a step in the right direction, and I'll take it. I will take it. Okay, it's just not realistic to expect a blue state like Illinois to just all of a sudden flip red. That's just not realistic. Would I love for that to happen? Absolutely. But I'm not delusional. Okay, I'm not delusional. I would clap up and down, if it did happen. But that's what, less than a 1% chance, maybe a 1% chance at best of that happening. But I'll take that step in the right direction. And I've said this in past videos. After this election and over the next 4 years, as Trump is in office and he's fixing things and getting things back in order, come 2028, the Republican Party, from the voting base to the politicians, will look completely different. It will look completely different from top to bottom. Top to bottom. And you're kind of seeing that. You kind of heard him allude to that at the end of that video there. There are more and more people waking up and realizing, I don't have to vote Democrat my entire life. And I'm not voting against my own people if I do vote Republican. It's actually smart to vote Republican. These Democrats have run our cities and run our towns into the ground. They're a big part of the reason why we're living in the conditions that we're living in. A lot of people are waking up to that, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Now, will there be some people who will never wake up to that? Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, there's going to be some people who are going to be stuck on the proverbial plantation for the rest of their lives. That's just a fact. But there are a lot of younger, especially younger folks, and I explained why I believe that is. But it's a lot of younger folks who are like, this ain't it. Nope, I'm out of here. And it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see. But, yeah, Democrats have got a major problem on their hands. You got this rising up in Chicago, a.k.a. Chirac. And then you've got the whole Michigan issue, which, like I said, Michigan is in play. It is in play. And let me bring up this Electoral College Map, okay? So here we go. All right. Electoral College Map. We have, these are what Rasmussen believes the results will be thus far. Pennsylvania is currently tied, and according to a source, the Maine is currently tied in the internal polling from both parties. Obviously, like I said, internal polling is a lot different than what we see out in public. So let's play this out. Let's say Trump loses Pennsylvania. Okay, so that ties it. All he has to do is win Maine in his ball game. But let's say he loses Maine too. Let's say he loses Maine. What if he won Virginia? Boom. Or let's say he loses Virginia. What if he won Michigan? Boom. Like, he literally, Trump only has to win one of these states between Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, right? New Hampshire, Maine, Virginia. He only has to win one. North Carolina has been polling in favor of Trump. Georgia, same thing. Arizona, Nevada. Rasmussen has said that they are in favor of Trump as well. He literally only has to win one of these states between Maine, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Win one. You flip one, and it's game. It's game. Which one will that be? I'm not too sure. I do believe he has a great shot in Maine. Great shot. Virginia, I have some belief that Virginia could go towards Trump, especially with some of the early stuff that I'm seeing in terms of the early voting numbers. I'm seeing some great stuff out of Virginia, especially with Glenn Youngkin changing things around in that state to ensure that there's no shenanigans. Okay, Michigan, obviously that one is going to be a nail biter. Wisconsin, the same thing. Pennsylvania, Rasmussen has it completely tied, neck and neck. And somebody like Scott Pressler is doing some fantastic work there. Hey, if you live in Pennsylvania, we need boots on the ground. We need boots on the ground if you live in Pennsylvania or any of the surrounding areas, and you have some spare time, which, hey, we need boots on the ground, okay, in Pennsylvania. Rasmussen, like I said, has it tied. And I like to believe Rasmussen, right? I've stated in past videos why I believe Rasmussen, but yeah, all he has to do is flip one. Flip one, and it's ball game. Pennsylvania goes. If the Amish in Pennsylvania show up for Trump, which I've seen some things that could lead to that actually happening, you know, the Amish community showing up in Pennsylvania for Trump, which they wouldn't be polled in a lot of these polls. So that could flip for Trump, and if that's the case, then that's ball game. And I mean, everything else is just icing on the cake. You know, anything that could realistically go his way, that's just icing on the cake. I mean, we're looking at an electoral landslide here, right? I mean, even if you don't get Virginia and it barely goes blue, I mean, that's still a very, very comfortable margin there. And I know Maine has will do that. I mean, even if he loses that one district there, I mean, that's still right. I mean, you flip that, look at that. That is insane. Now that's realistic. I do believe that is 100% realistic. That is well within the realm of possibility right there, what you are seeing on your screen. What I personally think will happen is this. I think we'll do that. Oh, wait, is it? And then this will go blue, barely. Michigan will go blue, barely. And I think that's the end result right there. Me personally. I think Virginia goes red, and I think Pennsylvania barely goes red as well. But what do you guys think? Let me know. All right. Stay safe out there. Peace and love. I'm out.